Dallas Cowboys. And on top of it all, Dak Prescott, whatever success he has had in being a two-time Pro Bowler himself, is a product of the greatness of Ezekiel Elliott. How do you answer that?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Ezekiel Elliott is a great player, but right now he's under contract for his fourth year. They've exercised the fifth-year option, and they certainly could franchise him thereafter. So, Stephen A., I would just tell Ezekiel Elliott, well, I would consider doing something after I get the other guy signed. The reality is he's under control for the next 3 years, so they have more pressing concerns at other positions. And, again, even though he is a great player, there's a lot of other, running backs that are out there. They just signed Alfred Morris, who is not in the class of Ezekiel Elliott, but certainly running back is a position that you can find. So while I acknowledge he's been really good, he certainly wouldn't be the first one I would sign if I were the Cowboys.
But if you're Jerry Jones, you're 76 years of age, you're the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, your clock is ticking. This is what Jerry Jones has said on the record about his own mortality, not just football, but life, obviously. When you look at it from that perspective and you look at the talent that the Dallas Cowboys have available, there are many people out there who believe this is the window for the Dallas Cowboys. If you're going to have a legitimate shot to win a Super Bowl championship, this is the year. First of all, do you agree with that? And secondly, how would that factor into your decision as to how soon you feel you need to prioritize taking care of Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, first of all, I do think they are a Super Bowl caliber team. I think they've done a really good job of building this team. We haven't even gotten to the other side of the ball with Jalen Smith and Byron Jones, two young emerging stars that they're going to have to deal with as well. But, just to take you behind the scenes a little bit, when you're the front office of an NFL team, one of the areas that you're going to be held accountable is by your own locker room. If you go in and you sign Ezekiel Elliott before you take care of Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott, they're going to look at you and they're going to look at Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and say, are those off-field behavior? Is that acceptable? So, you're going to be judged by your action in as much as your players are going to be judged by their action. So if you sign him first, you're saying that the way he's conducted himself off the field is acceptable, and that's why they have to be careful in terms of how they sequence these extensions.
Mike Tannenbaum, former executive in the National Football League with the Jets and the Dolphins, now an analyst for ESPN right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go the route of Michael Thomas and the New Orleans Saints. Not only does this guy want his money, he's been offered money to be one of the top 5 receivers in the National Football League. That appears to not be enough for him. He wants a salary that starts with a 2 per year, as in $20 million plus. You're the New Orleans Saints with Drew Brees as your quarterback, 40 years of age, biological clock ticking, even though he's been great. What do you do?
I signed Michael Thomas. He is worth every penny of it. He's outplayed his contract as a second-round pick, and he has not made the sort of transformational money some of these other players have, like an Ezekiel Elliott, a former first-round pick. If you look at the way the Saints are built right now, after Michael Thomas, their next 2 best weapons are Jared Cook, the tight end, and Alvin Kamara at running back, Stephen A. So he has a lot of leverage. As you said, Drew Brees is 40 years old. Their window is certainly closing. So I think Michael Thomas, of all the players out there with who are holding out right now, he has a tremendous amount of leverage.
Well, listen, he had 125 receptions for 1,405 yards last year, 1,245 the year before on 104 receptions. He's got Drew Brees throwing him the football. I understand that. But what about those who would argue? When we talk about the top receivers in the game, he's in the conversation, but he isn't definitively above Antonio Brown or Julio Jones or DeAndre Hopkins, etc. Some would argue not even Odell Beckham Jr., although I would make an argument to the contrary. How does that factor into the equation if you're the New Orleans Saints about the ability to holding off on the 2, maybe giving them 18 to 19 a year as opposed to the 20?
Yeah, again, I think it's going to be somewhere between 19 and 20 just because he has the leverage of where are the New Orleans Saints without him. That offense is a lot easier to defend if Michael Thomas is not out there. We go back to the Dallas Cowboys for a second. Without Ezekiel Elliott, you still have a number of good players that, including your quarterback, that can make a lot of plays, not only with his arm, but with his feet. So I think the Cowboy offense may not be exceptional without Ezekiel Elliott, but still a productive NFL offense. I think you take Michael Thomas out of the Saint offense, they're really going to struggle. So, again, I think the number's somewhere between 19 and 20, and because of his leverage, when it's all said and done, in my opinion, that number's going to be closer to 20.
Mike Tannenbaum, educate us about this. Just crystallize for us and educate us about, the numbers from the perspective of being an executive, paying a player a certain amount of salary, the amount of dollars they take away or they chunk away from your cap? The reason I ask that question is because when you talk about the money Drew Brees is making, and you talk about the money Michael Thomas wants to make, when we talk about the Cowboys, knowing that you need to pay Dak and Amari before you even take into consideration Ezekiel Elliott, I'm looking at a guy like John Gruden in Oakland. You know what? He had Amari Cooper, didn't want to keep him. He had Khalil Mack, didn't want to keep him. Kept Derek Carr, but it would have been nice if he could have kept Derek Carr and say a Khalil Mack, but he did not elect to do that. Crystallize for us as an executive what challenges you face and what should play pivotal roles in these financial decisions that you make.
Privilege of one of these jobs, I always define it as you're the point guard of information between ownership and your coaching staff. And if we go back to the Cowboys for a second, and we talk about Byron Jones, a very good starting corner, or Jalen Smith, you simply can't keep them all. So you say, hey, we got these 5 players we want to keep. We're going to draft the Dallas Cowboys. And who do we have to have? And who's a replacement? And once you go down the road, these quarterbacks, be it Dak Prescott or whomever else will be up next, and they're in $35 million a year, that's going to come from another position. Now, that position, Stephen A., may be your starting guard or your starting safety, but you get in a room and say, which position is easy to replace, because we simply can't keep them all.
Mike Tannenbaum right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, in your estimation, in today's NFL, which position is easier to replace?
Well, I think running back. You look at Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, and, not only did they have Rex Burkhead and James White, but they drafted Sony Michel in the first round a year ago, Damian Harris in the third round this year. So I think it's a position where, again, there are some great players out there, Ezekiel Elliott, Melvin Gordon, but I do think that is a position that you can do by committee and not necessarily have to pay top dollar for.
Now, when we sit up there and we look at a team like the Dallas Cowboys, and some would ask, what is Amari Cooper worth? And I'll ask you that question only because we're talking about Michael Thomas and his negotiations. We're talking about what Antonio Brown just got from the Oakland Raiders, et cetera. What in today's market, what does a guy like Amari Cooper demand when you were wondering whether or not he was a number one until he left Oakland, and then he showed us he was still a number one, but with only half season of work in Dallas last season?
Yeah, I think he's probably in the range of about $18 million. And if you just go by last year, Stephen A., they were 7-2 once they acquired him. Mm-hmm. So I think what he's proven, based on those 9 games, which is a healthy sample size, that he is a number one receiver. He's a difference maker. And you take Amari Cooper out of that offense, they're going to be hurting. They don't have another outside threat like him. So I think he's earned the right. I know there were some question marks about that before when he was a Raider, but I think based on that 9-game sample, he is certainly a difference-making wide receiver.
I wanted to sit there and get your thoughts on this. I haven't had an opportunity to ask you about this because I haven't interviewed you in months. But when the Cleveland Browns acquired Odell Beckham Jr., remember, we're just a year removed from Odell Beckham Jr. getting $95 million from the New York Giants, $65 million in guaranteed dollars, and they said we didn't sign him to trade him, and lo and behold, they traded him. As you reflect on that decision to move on from Odell Beckham Jr., what stood out in your mind as to what the reason was behind the Giants' willingness to make that move?
Yeah. In my opinion, Stephen A., it had to be something that it was some intangible, because you just gave him, obviously, like you said, a huge contract. You came out and you came out and you said that you weren't going to trade him. So something was going on behind the scenes that Coach Shermer and Dave Gettleman weren't happy with, because you don't sequence those events where you sign them, say publicly that you support them, and then you trade them. So to be something must have happened that he was affecting the progress of the program.
You heard Mike Tannenbaum. I know I heard him. Thanks again to Mike Tannenbaum, NFL analyst and insider, coming on Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get back to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Oh, by the way, the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, protecting commercial vehicles and offering specialized coverages designed to protect your business. More at progressivecommercial.com. Back to the phones we go. Richard, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
How you doing, Stephen A?
I'm all right. Go ahead.
Stephen A, first, let me say something. You are very correct and just only what you do, but you're very correct in your comments that you make. Let me tell you something. If you sign a contract this is my thinking. If you sign a contract, that's what you do. You held to that contract, and that contract is over. If the owner decides he's going to give you more money, then that's cool too. Mm-hmm. My thing is, why do you fight about something that you signed?
Well, listen. I would say this: it's not as simplistic as that in the National Football League. They obviously have a monopoly on football. If you want to play in the league, you got that rookie wage scale, which the Players Association knows it needs to do something about because you got rookies getting robbed all the time. And with the NFL having a hard salary cap, and by taking care of one player, you're definitely stripping and inhibiting your ability to take care of another player. All of these things happen, and they cannot be ignored. And so I would say you can't simply go about the business of stereotyping or labeling it that way.
I understand that. I do understand that if you are a football player opposed to a basketball player, opposed to a baseball player, things are different. But I do believe that if you sign a contract saying that you will work for these amount of dollars, that's what you work for.
Well, again, in the NFL, there is such a thing as outplaying your contract. And plenty of times players have had their contract. Like, for example, Julio Jones didn't hold out. But why did he not hold out? Because he said, he said, quote, Arthur Blank promised he would take care of us, or promised us he would take care of me. We'll keep him at his word. So he has a contract, but Arthur Blank promised to restructure that or modify it to such a degree to take care of him. You don't see this happening too much in sports, but in the NFL, it happens religiously because the NFL can sign you to a contract that doesn't stop their ability to waive you, trade you, or do whatever it is that they want to do with you. So they understand that there are player rights that they need to exercise in the modern NFL. Because of the way the collective bargaining agreement has been structured, as a player, you do have the right to challenge your leverage, your worthiness as a particular player in the organization's eyes compared to what they may think it is, and see where that takes you. You do have a right to challenge that without that being frowned upon, because it's not like challenging it forfeits their rights. They still have rights to you.
But you just mentioned somebody who's the governor of Georgia, Arthur Blanks, the greatest man that ever come through Georgia, sports-wise. So we're not going to talk about Arthur. Arthur's a good man. But anyway, I was just calling, Steve, and they let you know that anytime you're in Atlanta, Georgia, your haircut and your meal is free.
Well, thank you, man.
You don't pay for nothing in Atlanta.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. Thanks a lot, because I'll be down in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. Thanks a lot, man. Let's go to Hunter. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Hunter?
Hey, Stephen A. What's going on?
I'm all right, man. Talk to me.
I want to jump over to the NBA here for a second. I know you probably haven't got to that part of your show here, but
I did. I mentioned Anthony Davis early in the show, but go ahead.
I want to see what your thought is about they've been saying about Anthony Davis and title or bust. But you got to think that this season you have a very well-rested LeBron to help him propel to a championship.
Well, just so you know, just to make my position clear, it's not really about that. My point is that I'm not even measuring it by this season. I anticipate that Anthony Davis will stay in L.A. well beyond the season. I'd be shocked if he were to leave. What I'm proclaiming is that there is no way in hell, there is no excuse for the combination of Anthony Davis and LeBron James to not bring home one ring within the next 3 years. They should be able to do that. This is basketball. And when you have two superstars, top five players on the planet Earth, you should be able to pull that off. That's what I'm saying.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. So he was right to sit up there and say, if he doesn't win a championship, it's a failure. He wasn't talking about this upcoming season. He's saying that at this stage and point in his career, if he doesn't win a championship, it's a failure. He's right. He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. You can't have two players of this magnitude playing together. First of all, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they're phenomenal. They're great. They are not better than Anthony Davis and LeBron James. The Clippers might have a better team, but those two are not a better dynamic duo than LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Nor is Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum. Nor is Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Nor is Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. There is no greater dynamic duo in the sport of basketball than is LeBron James and Anthony Davis. That's just a fact. All right? Appreciate the call. Let's go to Muhammad. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
What's up, Stephen A?
Talk
I
to me.
appreciate you having me on.
Yep.
I just have a question. So, how can we sit down and talk about Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady being the best versus the greatest and not do the same about LeBron and Michael Jordan when LeBron, in my opinion, is the most complete basketball player to ever play the game?
Because I think that the maturation process that LeBron had to endure in order to get to that point is something Michael Jordan never had to do. And that's what I hold accountable for LeBron James. That's why he's on my Mount Rushmore, but I'll never put him ahead of Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan came into the league with the mentality that LeBron James had to develop. And that assisted in him losing titles along the way, mainly Dallas, because I don't blame him for the first loss to San Antonio in 2007. He had no team. But that's how I view it, and that's how I look at it.
Okay, so you're basically saying that Michael Jordan is generally a better basketball player as well over LeBron James.
I thought what LeBron James had to mature into, Michael Jordan naturally was. He was a killer. You remember the All-Star game where guys had to get on LeBron before he even won the title because they had to convince him to shoot the basketball in an exhibition game? And Melo and them was like, what the hell are you passing the ball for? What are you doing? Where Kobe got in his face, D-Wade got in his face, Melo got in his face. Everybody like, what's wrong with you? It took him years to mature to that point. Michael Jordan never had that issue. If Michael Jordan had never retired from basketball, Michael Jordan would have won 8 straight titles. That's what I'm surmising. I don't believe that LeBron James was Michael Jordan, to be clear.
Okay. Thank you for your input.
Take it easy. Take it easy. No problem. Let's go to Peter. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A. I was doing all right until I heard you on First Take today saying that Aaron Rodgers is better than Pat Mahomes.
Absolutely. One year, that's all. 1 year, you're a puppy. Now, Aaron Rodgers was injured last year, even though he was playing, but we all know Patrick Mahomes had a better year. But my God, can the dude take off his diapers and play first? He's a puppy. Aaron Rodgers been doing this for years.
What Alex Smith was never able to do with a team.
Oh,
like
stop right there. Stop right there. Don't embarrass yourself. We ain't even having Alex Smith as a part of this conversation. Ain't nobody said Patrick Mahomes wasn't better than Alex Smith. Where the hell you get that from? You asked me about Aaron Rodgers. You asked me about no damn Alex Smith. By the way, I wish him a speedy recovery because he's home, rehabilitating from that nasty leg injury he suffered against the Houston Texans last season. I wish Alex Smith nothing but the best, but he ain't a part of this conversation. You just embarrassed yourself by bringing him up.
Aaron Rodgers hasn't even had a season where he's throwing for 5,000 yards before.
He doesn't have to. And not only that, the NFL has changed. Right now, you can get called for pass interference or anything for passing gas or somebody, unless you're Nicole Roby-Coleman, who got away with it against the Saints in the NFC Championship game. Outside of that, all of these calls, the NFL ain't what it used to be. But don't come to me and I don't give a damn. Well, I don't give a damn if Patrick Mahomes threw for 10,000 yards. It was one season. He's a puppy. Let's see what he does in terms of continuity and consistency and all of that other stuff. Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. There is no doubt about that. Aaron Rodgers, why don't you attack this point? Because you bring up Patrick Mahomes, ain't nothing to discuss there. You'll lose that argument all day. Here's the argument I'm making to you. With the human eye, I'm not talking resume, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the resume, because he don't have Bill Belichick as his coach. He doesn't have that system. He doesn't have all of those things that Tom Brady had available to him. But let me be very clear. With the human eye, Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. Ever. That's better than Elway. That's better than Marino. That's better than Dan Fouts. That's better than Roger Staubach or Terry Bradshaw or Troy Aikman, Peyton Manning, Brady, Drew Brees. I don't give a damn who you pick. With the human eye, Aaron Rodgers is the greatest talent at the quarterback position that I have ever seen in my life.
The game? Can you see what he can do with his arm?
Who?
His arm is by far a greater talent than Aaron Rodgers.
Who?
Aaron Rodgers hasn't even shown the ability. Pat Mahomes.
Well, damn it, answer my question. Don't ignore it when I'm asking you a question on my radio show. Answer
what's
my
your question,
question. Well, that's what I'm saying. You kept talking and we didn't know who you were talking about.
What's your question, Stephen A?
Then you already answered it. I asked you who, and you said Patrick Mahomes. And what did I say to you? I said, don't come to me with a baby. You had a great, phenomenal year. That's why you were league MVP. I'm not questioning Patrick Mahomes' talent. I'm not questioning how great he was last season. I'm saying I don't give a damn if he threw for 10,000 yards. I want a resume. That's like a rookie. That's like a rookie coming into the league, all right, and winning, God forbid, league MVP honors in the National Basketball Association. I'm just supposed to say that person's better than LeBron James, who's been doing it for 16 years? No, I'm not doing that.
You say that Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Pat Mahomes right now in today's league when Aaron Rodgers hasn't taken his team to the playoffs in years?
Oh, I could say that. Well, first of all, the year before last, he got knocked out with the collarbone injury against Barr in Minnesota. So he didn't even play after 3 games. So that doesn't even count. And then last year, he got injured again, but tried to play through it and clearly wasn't himself. Plus, him and Mike McCarthy weren't on the same page. But I got 8 straight years of him going to the postseason. Before that, I got 8 straight years of him carrying the franchise on his back with little to no help. I got 8 straight years of Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, won multiple league MVPs, putting up a level of accuracy with ratings and QBRs and completions compared to interceptions, and the list goes on and on. Bye. Don't even talk to me about it. Come to me with somebody with a resume. I'm not questioning Patrick Mahomes' greatness. I'm saying let's see it now in year 2 and beyond. Don't give it to me now. 1 year don't mean anything to me. It's a level of consistency that I'm looking for. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't have that available to him yet because of his youth. You ain't getting him, giving him no nudge over Aaron Rodgers. Must be smoking something. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with more of your calls in a minute.